Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We're continuing our Mesechet Avodah Zarah, and we are on Daf Ayin Gimel Amud Bet, the middle of the Amud by the two dots. Today's Amud is being learned the Schud Refuah Shelma of Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, Yasmin Bat Sarah, Shahram Shalom Ben Turan. That should have Refuah Shelma b'toch Sha'ar Choli Yisrael. Amen. We left off in the middle of a discussion of bitul of yain nesech, when and when not it will be nullified when mixed with other things. So says the Gemara. Zeh haklal, the Mishnah taught us, and the language of the Mishnah was zeh. This is the general rule. The general rule is min b'mino b'mashu. Whenever you have a mixture of two items that are the same type, then even a little bit of isur that falls into the tarovet, into the mix, asers prohibits the entire thing. Shlomo mino, if you have min b'she'enu mino, you have one type mixing, falling into another type, then is easier. It will be benot tam. Only if you have taste of the isur, then it will be asur. But if you don't have taste, which generally speaking would be what, 60. If you have more than 1 in 60, then it will be mutar. Now, the Gemara is going to present a machloket, Rav and Shmuel on one hand, and Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish on the other hand, which of course we already know the halacha is going to be like Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish, but nevertheless, a big machloket in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Rav and Shmuel, Da'amri Tarvaihu, Rav and Shmuel both say, Kol isurin shbatorah b'minan b'mashehu shlo b'minan b'noten tam. All of the isurim in the Torah are the same way. When the Mishnah says zeh haklal, this is the general rule, that any isur that falls is min b'mino b'mashehu. It includes all the isur. If you have a piece of non-kosher meat that falls into other pieces of meat, it's going to be b'mashu. If you cook them together, whatever it is, it's going to be b'mashu. Not just yain nesech, but it's zeh haklal. It's by all of the isurim in the Torah. And says the Gemara, shlo b'minan b'noten tam. If it's not min b'mino, if it's min b'she'eno mino, it will be b'noten tam. So of course, according to this, when it says zeh haklal, that this is the general rule, says the Gemara, is referring to all of the isurim in the Torah. La tuyeh kol isurin shebatorah, is including all of the prohibitions of the Torah. Now the Gemara says that's Rav Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish disagree. Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish da'amri tarvaihu. Kol isurin shbatorah, all of the other isurim, short of yain nesech, and of course we're going to have one more example. But aside from that, regular isurim in the Torah, when they get mixed with other things of heter, ben beminan, ben b'shelo minan, if they are mixed with their own type or with different types, is going to be benoten tam. 1 in 60 will be sufficient, would be enough to be mutar. Chutz mi tevel ve'yayin nesech. Aside from tevel and yayin nesech, tevel and yayin nesech is going to be b'minan b'mashu. The two exceptions is yayin nesech that we already learned, we know that. In addition to yayin nesech is going to be tevel. Tevel is a tvu'ah, a produce that you have not taken terumot u'maserot from it. Terumah especially. You haven't taken terumah from it, that's tevel. If that gets mixed with others, then, says the Gemara, is mashehu. Just like yain nesech. So it's going to be b'minan b'mashehu, b'shelo b'minan, b'noten tam. So, according to Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish, all of the isurim of the Torah Beminan or shelo beminan is benoten tam. All the other isurim, you need 160, and that's good enough. Benoten tam. But if you don't have those items, you have yain nesech or you have tevel. Yain nesech and tevel are very chamur. They will be asering a mixture, a tarovet b'mashu, with even a little bit, it will be asur. Now we have to explain why. So says the Gemara, Ze haklal, not tevel, and the Mishnah that says Ze haklal, this is the general rule. The general rule is coming to only add tevel. It's not adding anything else besides tevel. So says the Gemara, Tanya kvated Rav, and Tanya kvated Rabbi Yochanan v'Resh Lakish. You have a braita that supports Rav and Shmuel. You have another braita that supports the idea of Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. Says the Gemara, Tanya kvated Rav Shmuel. The braita that supports Rav and Shmuel is like this: Kol isurin shbatorah b'minan b'mashu. All of the isurim in the Torah, if they get mixed with their own kind, it will be b'mashu. So that's of course like Rav and Shmuel, because Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish hold all the other isurim are benoten tam, right? So the braita clearly says like Rav and Shmuel, and shlo b'minan benoten tam. And if it's min b'she'eno mino, it will be benoten tam, 1 in 60, and that would be a support for Rav and Shmuel. Tanya kvated Rabbi Yochanan v'Resh Lakish, and we have another braita that clearly supports Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Kol isurin shbatorah, all of the isurim in the Torah, ben b'minan, ben shelo b'minan, whether they get mixed with their own kind or they get mixed with a different kind, says the Mishnah, says the Braita, benoten tam. It will be the isur benoten tam. That's like Rabbi Yochanan, clearly like Rabbi Yochanan. Chutz, aside from tevel v'yain nesech, aside from yain nesech and tevel that we mentioned, which b'minan b'mashu, the din would be if they get mixed. Min b'mino will be b'mashu, will be even asur with a little bit. By yain nesech and tevel, and shelo b'mino benoten tam. And without having min b'mino, if it's mixing with something that's not its kind, then it will be benoten tam. So says the Gemara, okay, fine, I understand yain nesech. Bishlama yain nesech mishum chumra da avodat kochavim. Why is it that yain nesech has been singled out to be asur even b'mashu, when chelev, dam, treif, pig, none of those things are b'mashu. Everything else in the world is benoten tam. What's the chumrah of yain nesech? So, we understand, we can relate to the fact that the chumrah of yain nesech is because of Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah is not batel also. Avodah Zarah of Yisraeli is not batel. You have a lot of chumras for Avodah Zarah. Lo yidbak biadcha, kum min hacherem. Nothing of the cherem should be, sticking to you, so to speak. So we understand why the Avodah Zarah should be asur b'mashu. And a tevel is just a regular isur. Until the moment that you separate truma from the produce, the entire produce is asur, is tevel. The truma itself, if you eat it, you're chayav mitas. It's of course chamur, mitah b'dei shamayim. But that's about it. It's not any different than chelev that you get karet. It's not any different than other isurim chamurim, and that will be batel b'shishim. So why is it asur? And a tever my tamak, that's asur b'mashu min b'mino. Says the Gemara, ki hetero kach isuro. The reason is because the heter of teruma, a tevel, is also with mashahu. So therefore, mashahu is chashuv, whereas in other things, mashahu a little bit is not chashuv. By tevel and teruma, even one grain is important. Why? Why? Because how do you, biblically speaking, from the Torah, when you have a massive keri, a massive pile of tvua, of produce, how do you make it mutar, separating teruma? How do you do it? Minat Torah, you take one grain of wheat, you say, hareze teruma, and the entire thing is mutar. Now, midrabanan, we have 3 different levels. Ayin yafeh, a person that is a giving person gives 1 in 40. Ayin ra'ah, a person that's stingy, gives 1 in 60. And a person memutza, a benoni, a regular person, gives 1 in 50. Teruma is the words notarikun of tere mimea, 2 from 100, right? 2%, 1 in 50 is the norm. You're more giving, 1 in 40. You're stingy, 1 in 60. So those are the Rabbanan levels. If you took 1, and said, you put it away, the entire thing is mutar. So you see, the Torah has given chashivut when it comes to tevel and teruma to even 1 grain. So just like 1 grain could make it mutar, 1 grain of teruma mixture, because if you took 1 out and said hareze teruma, right? Turns out that 1 that you now took a second ago, the mixture of that with the whole thing made the entire thing asur tevel. So 1 in millions could be the problem. So therefore the problem will be 1 in a million b'mashahu. If the tevel falls, b'mashahu will be asur. So says the Gemara, the Amar Shmuel, as Shmuel said himself, explained, that even 1 grain of wheat could pater, when you take 1 grain and say harezu teruma, that 1 grain of wheat would be teruma, and the whole thing would become mutar. And the Mishnah says also, you also learned in the Mishnah, tevel oser. How do we say that tevel becomes asur? Bechol shehu, it's bemino. When you have tevel that gets mixed in a mixture, if it's the same type, it's wheat by wheat, then it's bemino. Bechol shehu. But shelo bemino will be benoten tam. But if it gets mixed with other things, then it will be benoten tam. And the reason, again, as we mentioned, is because of the fact that tevel is very much important by the eyes of the Torah, made important by the eyes in the eyes of the Torah, that even 1 grain could make the thing mutar, and hence vice versa as well. Asur could be made, isur could be made also by 1 grain. Says the Mishnah, Elu asurin ve'isuran bechol shu. There are certain things that are asur, and the isur is bechol shehu. What are they? A whole list that the Mishnah gives us. Says the Mishnah, yayin nesech is, of course, familiar to us because we've been speaking for past few pages about the isur of yayin nesech being bechol shehu. Avodat kochavim, the isur of Avodah Zarah, is also familiar to us because we spoke about it for a number of times already in the Mesechet, how the Isur of Avodat Kochavim is also Bechol Shehu, right? That means if you have a tzura, you have a statue that was served. You know, one person made one of these little statues, they're Avodah Zarah. And now it got mixed with all these similar items, little statues. The rest of them are just, decorative artwork. And there's one that's Avodah Zarah. You don't know which one is which. So when do you say, okay, enough? We have enough. And then now it's going to be, all of them are going to be Batel B'Shishim or Batel whatever. Never. Even if you have 1,000 statues, and you know for sure one of them was Avodah Zarah or is Avodah Zarah, the entire mix is Asur B'Hana'ah. Ve'orod Levuvin. We spoke about Orod Levuvin also beforehand, that one of the ways that of the Avodah Zarah used to serve the Avodah Zarah was bringing a live animal in front of the statue, in front of the Avodah Zarah, and cutting a circle in the skin in front of the heart and sticking their hand in and pulling the heart out as the animal is alive, and offering that to the Avodah Zarah instead of doing the shechita. That's how they would do it. The heart, the source of life, right? They would dedicate that to their deity, right? We have crazy things like that. Even nowadays, you go to Far East, and if they want to respect you, they'll bring a live dog, and they'll just open its head open as it's alive and serve you the brain. But the Avodah Zarah, this was considered like a delicacy respect to the Avodah Zarah. You bring the live animal and you kill it in front of the Avodah Zarah, but not by making it dead by the offering, but rather by taking the heart out. And we mentioned that the reason that the skin becomes asur, in a regular case the skin would not become asur, but here, because the entire animal as it was alive was dedicated and offered to the Avodah Zarah, this skin was part of the animal as well, so the whole thing becomes asur b'hana. Whereas if you would bring an animal, kill it, and then take the heart and offer it to the Avodah Zarah, the rest of the animal was not an offering to the Avodah Zarah. So Orot Levuvin also is considered asur, and the isur is going to be isur hana. So says the Gemara, this is what we had earlier on in Daf Chavtet, Daf Lamed, by Orot Levuvin. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah rather, Veshora Niskal. Shora Niskal is a shore that became muad and gored and damaged, and now is killed, and now it's going to be killed, the Shora Niskal. And Shora Niskal we learn from the pasuk that's also asur b'hana. Ve'egla rufa. Egla rufa is when you have a corpse that you find between cities, you don't know which city is it closer to, and you measure from the corpse to the cities surrounding, and the nearest city, the Ziknei Ha'ir come out, and the whole process there, the Kohanim come out as well, and they go next to the Nachal Etan, a place that was not worked, and they kill this eglah, this calf, by arifa, by beheading it. And the Ziknei Ha'ir says, it's not our fault. We took care of this person. If he came to us, we gave him what he needed. We give him levaya to him, and so on, all those things. And the Kohanim say, Kaper na'ala amcha Yisrael, Hashem, please be an element of kapara, and the dam, the blood of that person, will be atoned for these people. That's the process of Egla Rufa. But there, we learn from the Gemara learns from a pasuk that it's going to be Sham Teh Kevurato. That the Egla Rufa, this calf that was beheaded in the process of Egla Rufa, has to be buried right there and then when it was beheaded, when it was killed, and it's Asur B'hana. So therefore, if Egla Rufa got mixed with 1,000 other Eglas, the entire thing is going to be Asur B'hana. So says the Gemara, the Sipore Mesorah, every Mesorah in the process of his cleansing brings two Siporim, two birds. One of them gets shechted, one of them gets released, and if they get mixed with others, they're going to be Asur B'hana as well, as the Gemara learns from a pasuk. V'sa'ar Nazir, a Nazir that makes a neder of Nazir Lashem, depending on how many days it is. Sometimes it's just the 30 days, Stam Nazirut. Sometimes it could be years. It could be a Nazir Olam. But the se'ar that he has, the hair that he, when he comes to end the process of Nazirut, he has to shave all his hair, Of course, it's going to share, shave the head. The se'ar, the hair of Nazir, in the process of tahara, afterwards the process of ending the Nazirut, is also asur b'hana'ah. And if he gets mixed, he can't say, oh well, so I become a Nazir and I'll donate my hair to Cancer Society afterwards, or make a sheitel from it. You can't do that. It's asur b'hana'ah, right? Just like tikrovet avodah zarah would be asur b'hana'ah. Now, by the way, that becomes, again, as we mentioned before, the whole basis for the Indian hair controversy that has come up several times, at least twice, as a big thing in Klal Yisrael. That if they are actually offering this as a Hindu ritual to their Avodah Zarah, they come to temples in front of the Avodah Zarah, they have like barbers sitting in front of every statue in one big room, and they do it as a ritual. If it's considered shvira, and if it's considered in front of the Avodah Zarah, then you actually end up with a takrovet Avodah Zarah, which would be asur b'hana'ah. Now asur b'hana'ah, you can't even own it, right? You can't lo tavito eval betecha. You cannot even bring it to your house, even if you don't own it, and you can't own it even if it's not in your house, and you certainly cannot benefit from it, and so on. So says the Mishnah. The other one is peter chamor. Peter chamor, that you have to redeem, right? That's Mishnah in the beginning of Mesechet Bechorot. That also becomes asur behana'ah, right? So long as it has not been redeemed, it's asur behana'ah. You cannot benefit from the baby of the donkey that has been born. You have this sometimes coming up when people actually go buy an aton, a female donkey. They want to do the mitzvah peter chamor. Some people are very big in this in Eretz Yisrael. Sometimes you end up having it, in the circles of people who you know, and you see it becomes a big deal always. Like peter chamor, and the tifteh beseh, and they redeem it and so on. It's a very rare mitzvah, and you have to be careful. You want to do a mitzvah, but at the same time you have to be very careful that it's asur b'hana'ah. You can't have like a petting zoo. It's like, well, Purim is around the corner, and we're doing the peter hamor right afterwards. So let's get it in, as everyone is going to enjoy a little baby donkey that's born. So you cannot do that, right? So that's peter hamor is also asur b'hana'ah.
What does it mean to be redeemed?
That means they would redeem it with a seh, with a sheep, just like. You have a bechor of an adam that you have to buy from a kohen with 5 selaim. The peter chamor, you buy it from a kohen, right, with a seh, with a sheep, right. So that's the exchange of peter chamor with a seh. That you give it to a kohen, and thereby you redeem it.
So a kohen would not have to redeem their donkey.
That's correct. So says the Mishnah. Let's finish the Mishnah for now. Basar v'chalav also becomes asur. It becomes machloket Rashi and Tosafot. Simply put, is the meat that was not 60 times the amount of milk that got mixed and cooked with it, and now it became asur b'hana'ah. Because it's not just asur b'achila, but it says 3 times in the Torah, lo tebashel gedi b'halev imo. And Chazal learned that if you don't need to say 3 times for me to understand that I can't cook it. So why do you say it 3 times? One is that you can't cook it. One is that you can't eat it if it was cooked even by someone else. And the third one is that you cannot have any hana'ah from it, even if it's not eating and even if it's not owning. Right, which becomes the whole question if you can be a delivery man for basar b'chalav nowadays, right? Which is a popular job to do when you're benefiting from dealing with basar b'chalav. That also becomes a question. And says the Mishnah, v'seira mishtaleach, the Vilna Gaon, Rash, and Rif also do not have it part of this Mishnah because we're talking about chulin, not kochim, but seira mishtaleach. In other words, the din is true, but it doesn't belong in this Mishnah. Chulin korbanot of chulin that they were shechted in the wrong place, also they become asur bana because they still have the din of korbanot. Hareru asurin, they're all asur ve'osrin bechol shehu, and they are going to prohibit their mixture if they get mixed with others. Even bechol shehu, they're not going to be batel berov or batel b'shishim, which again the Gemara is going to discuss this. This is going to be a fascinating subject, short Gemara, which we're going to do Be'ezrat Hashem tomorrow morning.